think the key features of my portfolio be, apart from the fact that each module has taught me to approach theology and this course in different ways, I've quite liked the fact that each project has stretched me. So, with one of the projects being um, doing a service or doing something in place of the main traditional sermon, um, to be able to be creative and write some sort of poetry, to look more in depth at a Bible passage from two different types of theology. I really feel like they've kind of opened up my hunger to learn more and to know more. I see those as highlights. I think although I felt quite comfortable with creating something that was in place of the traditional sermon, and in this particular context, I did a cafe church. Actually, then doing that with people and using it in a Sunday service was actually I found really challenging. I found it really challenging not um to go into sort of like a 7-8 minute sermon, because I was worried that I was going to leave them sort of without having learnt anything to apply to life. Um, and so I really struggled with planning that when I knew I was going to actually do it with some people, um, not to try and write a sermon as well as doing the cafe church. As it turned out, when I actually did it in person, it was okay because people were very good and gracious, and they did answer questions, and that helped spark discussion. And I had some notes for myself so that I could add some pointers in that were to do with the Bible passage. But I found that a real challenge. I found it quite challenging to some of the projects where you had to plan a service according to a particular type of or group of people that might come. So, like multicultural, for instance, I did try and not go for my comfortable one so that I would challenge myself, but I did find it quite tricky to, more than I thought I would, to really challenge myself in that. Um, but what was useful in that one was the conversations I had with my tutor while while doing it, helped me. It was almost like a flip of a switch. I just couldn't quite see it from the right perspective. And as soon as I had the conversation with her, it's like suddenly a light bulb moment, and I could see what it was that I was being asked to do. And I think another key feature for me personally is to work out what type of preacher I am and to recognize the different types that there are. And that although I might have a preferred style, um, there is a call perhaps at different times for you to be one of each of those different types of preachers, perhaps. And that perhaps it is good sometimes to be able to recognize the difference and to try and incorporate some of them into your different services that you do. I would say my understanding, skills, and sense of call have developed in lots of different ways over the last few modules. I think the last few modules, 5 to 8, are so much more involved. They take you on a more of a theological journey, and so therefore it's increased my knowledge and my understanding. I particularly enjoyed and got a lot from the history and timeline of how different people's influences, different things happening in the world, changed and shaped the direction of Christian faith. I also really enjoyed looking at the different types of theology. I guess I've always been sort of aware of the fact that there are different theologies without realizing I knew that, and that this has helped put a name to some of the things that I'd noticed. I think because of who I am, I do try to look for those people who are on the sidelines for maybe the less obvious message that's in something. What these last few modules have helped to do as well is to help me to explore my own views and my ideals, particularly around tradition. I've always had a bit of a thing about tradition, I think. I was brought up very much in very traditional churches, quite high churches. I kind of rebelled against it, if you like. And when I came across the Methodist Church that I still attend now, I came across it in my early 20s, very late teens, early 20s. And it was a very vibrant, dynamic church. Each week, the service would be led differently by different people. And I really felt refreshed by that. And that was in stark contrast to what I'd grew up with different traditions and very set liturgy. And so I think I instantly had that had put me off liturgy. However, this course has helped me to revisit that again and to really look at what I really think about traditional liturgies, more formal services. And I think I'm becoming more aware of the need for others rather than it always having to be left behind and moving forward, that actually it can be a really beneficial part of our service. And I think one of the biggest sense of call that's developed for me is that recognition, confidence definitely, and reassurance that it's okay to be me as the preacher, that I am called to be me, and I'm valued to be me with the different ways that I approach things and the different ways that I might look at things. Within that, of course, I've had to learn to be me in my style and ways while being sensitive and adapting to what each church might need, but also what the congregation need. So it's been a real sort of fine balance, but I've increased those skills and nurtured those skills in learning how to find that balance by listening to feedback, listening to what the stewards and such might say to me when I'm planning services and things, and then how I feel God has led me. There has been many times throughout the whole course, actually, that we have looked in the deeper sense of what Methodism is, how it came about, John Wesley, but also just the different aspects of what is needed when taking mission forward, when putting together a worship service. And that has helped increase my confidence in what I'm doing in the service and in planning. I've definitely, as I've been studying, kind of evolved the way that I do my services. That comes across in my confidence. But I think also when you're reassured in yourself that all the elements that are suggested to be in a service are there, but that you're also trying to approach things from the foundational Methodist point of view, I think that's quite a helpful element to have within your skill set. Because obviously I am preaching in a Methodist church. I may be a Christian, and we can obviously, different denominations can relate to each other, and we do fundamentally believe the similar things. But it's that foundation of what Methodism is in the quadrilateral. The tradition, reason, scripture, and experience. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, that's part of where it's really pushed and challenged me to think about what I feel about tradition. I feel the role of a local preacher takes on quite a few different elements. If I were to list them, I would say facilitate, enable, educate, expand, and challenge. And what I mean by those, I guess, is that you have to be able to facilitate that hour's time with those people in such a way that it's a flow of elements to allow each person there to be able to engage with God. That's basically what the fundamental is. that you want to help people there, enable them to engage with God. And you have to help facilitate that. As so many people are of different types of learners, come from different backgrounds, contexts, ethnicities, age groups, all sorts of things, which mean that they approach God, faith, and understanding in different ways. It's trying to ensure that there are many different things within a service to help try and reach everyone in the way that they need to be reached. And I suppose that also means that those who are not comfortable in that, I don't know, if you're a visual learner and there are quite a lot of audio things, then it might help to expand and challenge them in the way that they learn, and vice versa. But I also think that the message needs to be challenging. I think it needs to relate to everyday life so that the congregation go out and feel like they've been enriched, that they've learnt, challenged, but that they can apply it to their daily life. I really enjoyed the theological side of things and going a bit deeper. I really, really enjoyed the different theologies, and I'd like to do some more reading around that. But I don't want to just stop here. I want to keep building on my Bible knowledge. Tom Wright, I've got quite a few of those books, and I think now that my time will be freed up from reading the modules, I would like to continue by reading books such as on different theologies, Tom Wright's understanding of different gospels and each book's in the Bibles. And I think also within the local preacher meetings, I think there is a good place to have discussions, again, to keep challenging each other, and to build up then on my preaching skills as well as my academic skills, which are being nurtured through the reading and such. And I know that part of my second interview includes looking at Wesley's sermons, which I've taken a little look at already, but I'd like to look at them in more in depth and perhaps read them.